Hi everyone, welcome back to Book Reviews for 2025. Today we'll be reviewing book number 2 of 2025. Again, I hope that these reviews are helpful. I get questions about book recommendations from time to time. And the goal of these book reviews are to give you a little bit of insight, a little understanding on what the text is, what you may get from it, what you may learn from it for your life, for your leadership, for your walk with Christ. And so I hope that they're encouraging to you. I hope you find them useful. And if any of these books you're curious where to find, just drop me a comment or a DM and I'll let you know where you can order or find these books. Today's book review, book number 2, is The Narrow Path by Rich Villodas. The Narrow Path by Rich Villodas. In this text, it opens up with this passage. It says, "Even enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow is the road that leads to life, and only a few will find it." Of course, that passage coming from the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 7. And that is the opening passage to this book. And by taking readers through different aspects of the Sermon on the Mount, Villodas expounds on what it means to walk a narrow path, to live a life on a narrow path, which in essence is a journey straight into the heart of God. Of course, there are two paths that we can choose to take. There is the broad path and the narrow path outlined by Jesus in his sermon. The broad path, a life outside of his rule and reign, his way of life. And then a narrow path, a life submitted to him, submitted to his wisdom, his way of life. And through a journey through the Beatitudes, Villodas takes readers. He expands and talks about how we can discover that a narrow path leads to what is called a blessed life. So we ask the question, what of course is a blessed life? Well, he answers just as Jesus would, through the Beatitudes, the poor in spirit, those who mourn, the meek, the merciful, the pure in heart, the peacemakers. These are all traits of those on the narrow path. Is that life difficult from time to time? Absolutely. But it's a life that's connected to the cross, a life that's connected to Christ. It's a life that's possible only by living a life connected to God through prayer. So he goes on to describe exactly what this life on a narrow path is like. It's understanding the witness that we have. Do we reflect the character of God? And he asks this really bold question, or makes a statement rather, when he says, when you wake up in the morning, you must choose to either cast a shadow or light a candle. The narrow path is a life that understands anger, not in a way that we no longer get angry, but a life that understands the level of which our anger has influence in our lives. And not just anger, it's a life that understands the power of words, the power of our desires, the power of our money, the power of our anxiety, our judgment, our decision making, and even our enemies. He says, the best measure of spiritual maturity is not how much you know about God, but how much you imitate his love toward your enemies. How we love and treat others is a marker of the path that we are on, narrow or broad. So indeed, this life can be difficult. It's a narrow, small, difficult path, but it's worth it. It can only be done through prayer and through practice. Those are the key markers of this life, prayer and practice. See, Jesus, ultimately, he is asking for obedience. And orienting our life around Jesus and his teaching, being obedient to him, will lead us to a life with greater attentiveness to God's love, a life that will impact every aspect of what we believe and how we act and how we think, how we live and breathe at the heart of God, especially those things that we mentioned earlier. This book is a fantastic reminder of the life that Jesus is calling all of us to. An obedient, wisdom-filled, love-filled, grace and mercy-filled life on a narrow path. A life that isn't based on circumstance, but a life that's oriented around Jesus, his life, his teaching, and his cross. It's a great reminder of the calling on our lives, a great reminder that we have a daily choice to cast a shadow or to light a candle. We must choose one. So I hope that you found this useful. I hope that this book inspires you to walk the narrow path. I hope that it encourages your life. Hope it encourages your faith. And hope you'll come back next time for book review number 3 of 2025. See you next time. Have a great day.